Hey, what's up everyone? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we are looking at the Revoltech Snake from Peace Walker, Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. You guys may know this if you've listened to any of my other reviews, that I'm not a huge Metal Gear Solid fan. I know just a little bit about the characters. I thought this figure looked cool. I thought the Raiden one looked cool, so I got both of them. And this one can go in with my Smash Brothers display, even though it's not quite the right version of Snake, I believe. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not that familiar, but the figure's cool, and I like figures, so that's why I got it. So let's take a look at the figure. But first, I want to show you that if you're not familiar with the Revoltech stuff, they don't come with an instruction sheet. They have everything you need to know on the packaging, which I guess is okay. It's kind of good and kind of bad. It depends on how you like your packaging. So that's up to you. It does show you everything it comes with and some posing possibilities. So that's pretty cool. It also tells you, I believe what this is it's explaining how the joints work and how you can possibly free them up if they're frozen, maybe. I'm not positive on that. Obviously I can't read it. But it's interesting. Maybe this is the frozen part. I think this is, because that's the one with the pliers. But either way, it's decent packaging and a nice big window on the front. So let's look at the figure. Now, one thing I want to point out is he does come with a Papercraft cardboard box that you can put all of your accessories in. No, I'm just kidding. It is an accessory for Snake to hide under or hide in or whatever you want to do. It's from the game. I know that much. You can kind of see here that it shows him hiding in that. I think it was on the packaging as well. Yeah, it is. So that's what that is. You just have to cut that out, be very careful, and then put the glue on these flaps right there. You can turn that into a cardboard box accessory. So that's pretty cool. Alright, so there we have Snake with all of his good stuff. And again, if you are unfamiliar with the Revoltech stuff, there's also a bundle underneath here with the display stand. So let's take that out. Wow, there's a lot of tape on that. Alright, I don't think we needed that much tape. But here we have the display stand. It's very similar to the other import figures, and it's not quite the same, but it's similar. So let's open that up. Where's my knife? There's my knife. Alright. So, now we have the display stand. So, we have this little base down here, which I personally don't really care for, things that are not symmetrical, that are asymmetrical. And that's what this is. It has a peg on this side for the foot of the figure, and this is just kind of like a little part to stabilize it. So, I mean, it's functional, but it's not really my style. And I guess there's two little pockets in the baggie here, so let's take that out. Come on. So the upright pegs into this, and then, wow, that's really stiff. Alright, so the upright pegs into that. Then you can take one of these standard ball hinges that they use on their figures, and you peg that into there. And then you peg that, it goes in all the way. I just didn't do it for the sake of this. Then you can peg that into the hole on the back of his pouch, and that's kind of like just a stabilizer. It doesn't really lift him up too much. If you want to, you can put this piece on, which extends it, and then you can pull it off and throw it on the table. And then you can put another ball hinge on there. It comes with two, and that gives you kind of like a flight stand. So it's pretty effective. And lastly, you can put, which one is it? This one. You can put the one exclamation point accessory with the red and the blue on there from the game. It has a hole in the bottom, so you can put that on one of these and put that on the display stand, and it'll go over the person's head. So that's pretty cool. So he does have the exclamation point. Might as well show you these right now. And he has, it's kind of hard to get this stuff out of the package without a little help. And then he has also the Z's, which you could put like on the box or something. So that's cool. And the last accessory that's not directly for the figure is just another little stand type of piece, like a wave dash type thing, and you can just peg his foot on there and it'll stabilize him and look kind of cool. So there's that. It's kind of pearly, just the slightest bit translucent. That's a pretty cool piece. Okay, I forgot one other thing. Sorry. Is this, and I'm told these are just for holding your accessories. I guess that's what that's for. Both of the figures have that, so there you go. And then you also have this. Geez, I forgot about a couple of things, I guess. And that just pegs into his pouch, and that's just a stabilizer peg. So that doesn't peg into anything, it just leans on the table to help you balance the figure. Alright, enough of this stuff that's not exceptionally interesting, like the true accessories for the figure and the figure itself. Alright, he stands fairly good size, especially for the price point. He's about 5 3/4 inches tall, and I think these guys are a little bit cheaper than the SH Figure Arts. I don't really remember offhand, but it was definitely not a bad price for the figure. And I have to say, even though I'm not a huge Revoltech fan, it is a pretty good figure, and I may buy more in the future depending on what they end up coming out with. So before we look at the figures in closer detail, let's look at the accessories. He does come with a bandana that pegs in, so that's not really an accessory. He has his little stun baton thingy. Again, I'm not super familiar with the game, so I'm not sure exactly what that is, but he does have it. There's not a huge amount of paint on the accessories, by the way. They're all kind of just molded plastic with little bits of detail, if any. So he's got the silenced pistol, and he's got the AR rifle. Again, a little bit of paint on this, but not very much at all. He also has these two little thingies that you can put in his hands, like this. Let me show you one just for an example. Let's see, do I have the right piece? No, wrong one. So you put that in his hand like that, and that just helps him to hold on to, sorry, you probably couldn't even see that. So you can just like hang him onto a fence or a string or something. I don't particularly care for that. I would have rather just had molded hands that did that. But you have one of those for each side. So there's that. Alright, and then he does have a bunch of hands. So he has two of this hand. One for each side, of course. Which is kind of like the trigger finger hand. Then he has a different trigger finger hand for each side. He has the open palm hands. These are sculpted fairly well, by the way. There's nice detail on them. And he has some bigger open palm hands, and these are for like using like two hands, one holding the pistol and one stabilizing it. But I don't really care for the design choice for this. They shouldn't look quite so contorted, I don't think, but still sculpted pretty well. And then he has this hand, which is meant for holding the stun baton thingy. So lots of hands. And of course he has the two fist hands that come on the figure. So let's look at the actual figure. The bandana thing just pegs in up here. I wish it pegged in a little bit better. It kind of sticks out a little bit too far, I think. But it does peg in, and of course you can pose it after you do that. Before we get into the articulation, let's just look at the sculpt and paint. The paint on this guy is pretty much spot on, pretty much perfect. Can't really point out anything that I think needs to be improved upon, especially for the price point. It's pretty darn good. I don't see anything that should have been painted that wasn't. It just looks really, really well done. Pretty clean paintwork. The sculpt, again, is also really good. His hips are a little bit big, I think. He's got a little bit of the diaper thing going on, but it's not too bad, and once you get him posed, it's really not a problem. Some people have problems with the shoulders, the way they design the shoulders with the joint up at the top like that, and then kind of this hollow insides. Again, once you get the figure posed, it's really not too bad. That is one of the things I don't like about Revoltech, is the way they do the articulation. But it does come in handy. You can very easily bring his arm across his chest to, to hold a pistol or whatever, so, or just to cross his arms, kind of. Obviously, that's not how you would do it, but you could do it. So it's not too bad. And then, again, the neck is a little weird, but it's not bad. So the sculpt is pretty good. All of the fine details are really good. And just the overall look of the figure, again, is pretty good. The head sculpt, some people are having some problems with the head sculpt. It's a little bit stylized. It's a little bit too stylized for my liking, but it still is pretty well done, so that's okay. Alright, now let's talk articulation. Almost every single joint has the exact same type of joint on it, and that is the Revoltech joint. And so that is just a ball hinge. It's really just a ball hinge with a peg on each end, and it hinges. So it swivels on the peg at either end, so that should spin in there. And then you have the ratcheting hinge. This just is a cap to hide the open joint. Let's see if I can put it back on. So that goes on there, and then that just pegs into his butt. Each leg is the same. They peg in this way, so it's really a kind of unique joint. It allows the leg to rotate like that, and then you use the ratchet to bring it forward. Of course, you can rotate it around and really kind of finagle it to get it to where you want, and this is all soft material, so that it's not going to get in the way too much. The whole crotch piece is soft. The knee, same joint again, ratcheting ball hinge. It swivels at the top and the bottom. And then we do have this little hinge for the knee pad, which really saves the sculpt on this guy. Raiden suffers from huge knee gaps, is what I like to call it. This hides that perfectly well, so that's okay. They do look ugly from the back, but the knee pad does help that. The ankle has the same joint as the hip, it's just tiny, so it swivels up there and down here and is ratcheted. The lower torso and the upper torso are both connected by these joints as well, so this one just pegs into right there, and then it actually goes through the lower torso. Let's see if I can do this real quick to show you. I don't normally take the figures apart on camera because sometimes it's hard to get them back together, but that's all one joint right there. So it's the same exact type of joint. It might be the exact same joint as the hip, though it looks a little smaller. So that just goes right through. It pegs in down at the bottom. Again, everything's soft down there, so it's not going to be a problem. And then it pegs in the back, in the torso. So he does have an ab crunch technically. You can get him bent over pretty far. This part right here is soft, so it does hide the crack a little bit, his back crack, and it can give to leaning backwards. So it's pretty good ab crunch. You can use the belt to hide any gaps in the front. So he does have good range of motion, good articulation there. The neck has the exact same joint peg again, and that lets the neck lean forward and rotate, though it is kind of restricted. Again, same type of joint in the hair. That's what connects the head to the neck. And then you also have one from the head, well, there it is, from the head to the hair. So you have pretty good posability in the neck as well. So that's pretty cool. His eye is posable. He didn't get an accessory piece to help you rotate the eye at all, so that's really not, I was kind of expecting something that would help, but we don't have one. So you can just reach in there with your fingernail though, and you can pose his eye, which is awesome. I haven't seen that before other than in that one I used for the Deathstroke, so that's really cool. I do appreciate it, though again it would have been really nice to have something to grab onto that little peg with. But it's still usable, so that's cool. So let's peg that back in. Shoulders, again, that's that same joint. It'll take some getting used to, but once you get used to it, it's pretty much just fine. Same thing for the elbow, same joint there. Then the wrists are the only joint that don't have that. It's just a regular standard hinge with the swivel peg. So, I mean, it's fine for the wrists. It's just the only one that doesn't have it. One thing I want to point out is that these are all, as you could see, fairly easy to pull apart. So if you can't quite get enough range of motion on something, you might be able to loosen the joint a little bit, and it'll give you possibly the range of motion you're looking for. So that's about it for the figure. This review ran a little longer than I expected, but it's the first time I've reviewed a Revoltech, so I wanted to go into detail. Again, the reason I'm not a huge fan of the Revoltechs is the way they handle some of the joints like the shoulders and the hips, but it is effective. It's just not the way I prefer it. So it's a cool figure. I do recommend it. Stay tuned for the Raiden figure, the Metal Gear Solid Revengeance Raiden figure, and I'll be doing that soon. In the meantime, keep collecting.